So if government shapes your entire life, what type of government do you want? Welcome to Civics 101, because this stuff hits different when you're an adult. Remember in high school when you had to memorize all the different types of governments for a test and then maybe forgot most of them immediately after? Yeah, so it turns out the distinctions actually matter, because the type of government a country has determines who holds power, how decisions are made, whether you can criticize leaders, and how much control the state has over your life. So today we're breaking down the major types of governments, clearly, practically, and without the textbook fog. Let's make it make sense. Let's start with democracy. At its core, democracy is a system where power sits in the hands of the people. That means influence over institutions, leaders, and policies ultimately comes from the citizens. But here's the key question. Do the people govern directly or indirectly? Because that's where we get important distinctions. There are actually two types of democracy: direct democracy and representative democracy. In a direct democracy, people participate directly in making government decisions. Classic example, ancient Athens. Regular citizens gathered, they debated, and voted themselves on different policies. There were no middlemen, no representatives, just direct participation. Now, in modern large countries, this is almost impossible to do at a national scale. But you do still see elements of direct democracy today, like ballot initiatives or referendums, where citizens do vote directly on certain issues. While we see some elements of direct democracy in the United States, the US is not a direct democracy. It is a representative democracy, also called a republic. In this system, citizens elect representatives to make decisions and pass laws on their behalf. So instead of voting for every single law yourself, you vote for members of Congress, the president and vice president, governors, state legislators, mayors, and even school board members. And because decisions are made through majority rule, voting and making your opinion known are not optional background activities. They are central to how the system works. If citizens disengage, the system still runs, just without their input. And that's important. Second type of government is a monarchy. A monarchy is a system where one ruler, typically hereditary, holds political power. But not all monarchies are the same. In an absolute monarchy, the monarch controls the entire government, and they have unrestricted power. An example of this would be Saudi Arabia. In a constitutional monarchy, the monarch has some power, typically as an executive, but their power is limited typically by a constitution. Think Monaco. And then there's a ceremonial monarchy, where the monarch has very little political power and mostly just does symbolic duties. Great Britain is the quintessential example of this because Parliament actually does the governing. So even within monarchies, the scope of power varies dramatically. Now onto oligarchy. This is a government ruled by a small set of people. Instead of power resting with the people or even the monarch, it rests with a handful of elites. And even this can take several different forms. The first is a stratocracy, which is military rule. The second is a plutocracy, where the wealthy elites run the government. Another is a theocracy, where the government is run by religious leaders. And the last one is one-party rule, where a single political party holds all power. And an example of this would be the Communist Party of China. In oligarchies, political power is concentrated, and access to decision-making is limited to a narrow group. Now we move into systems where power is not based on citizen consent. These are authoritarian and totalitarian governments. An authoritarian government is primarily concerned with preserving its power. It restricts political opposition, limits or prohibits competing political parties, is not bound typically by constitutional limitations, and allows leaders to act arbitrarily. However, authoritarian systems often allow some private freedoms. Things like religion, businesses, and social institutions may exist independently as long as they don't threaten the regime. It's been said that in 2023, nearly 1/3 of the world's countries operated under an authoritarian regime. Now, a totalitarian regime goes much further. It exercises unlimited state power and seeks to control all aspects of life, not just politics, but beliefs, culture, education, media, even personal relationships. Some of the key features of a totalitarian government are an official, all-encompassing ideology, propaganda and indoctrination, surveillance, suppression of all political opposition, press censorship, secret police, mass imprisonment, and terror as a political tool. Unlike general authoritarianism, totalitarian regimes are ideologically driven, and they attempt to mobilize society around one singular vision. Leaders of totalitarian regimes often develop a cult of personality, presenting themselves as godlike figures who deserve unlimited loyalty. Citizens are not just governed, they're controlled and indoctrinated. Understanding types of governments isn't just academic. It helps you recognize how power is structured and understand which rights are protected and which aren't. It also helps you see warning signs when systems begin to shift. Because governments are not static, they evolve, they slide, they concentrate power, or they distribute it. And knowing the difference is how you stay informed and not confused. So next time you hear these terms thrown around, you'll know what they mean. And that matters because the structure of government shapes everything else. If this helps make it make sense, like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you'd like me to break down next.